Great, and we're live. So welcome everybody to this remote interview. My name is Lisette, and I'm interviewing people and companies doing great things remotely. And today on the line, I have something very exciting. It's a tool that I hope that everybody else will go out there and try for their team. Before I tell you what the tool is, though, I'm going to try to build some suspense. I'm with Irene and Emma today. So thanks, you guys, for joining me on this interview.
No worries. Thank you for inviting us.
So now I wanted you guys to say hello so that people on the video can see that you were both out sitting in the sun and you're in Barcelona today. So, nice spring day in Barcelona. Brilliant. So let's dive into it with the first question, which is, what does your virtual office look like? What do you guys need to get your work done?
So our virtual office isn't always in the sun, but for us,
we try.
I guess before we kind of considered ourselves as digital nomads, but I think now we're kind of settling in Barcelona, and so we've got a startup, and our virtual office is in the studio sort of behind us. We kind of co-work with a couple of other, I guess, an agency, a branding agency. And with sort of a bunch of creatives, really.
We also have a couple of team members or developers, I would say in this case, that they are in Belarus at the moment. So we've been in Thailand before. We've been traveling a little bit more before, like Emma said, but right now we just decided to come to Spain for a while and be closer to London, which is the main where everything happens for us right now.
So we're kind of in between London and Barcelona at the moment.
Yeah,
we've got, as Irene said, we've got more or less 3 developers in Belarus. We've got one person who works with us who's actually based in Chiang Mai in Thailand, Luke, and Justin and Paul, who are in London.
Okay, so I'm going to dive into why London and why Belarus in a second. But first, let's talk about your product, which is mindful.teams. So tell us a little bit more about what you guys have created.
Sure thing. Mindful Team is basically it's a product tool that we've created as a way to help people measure the happiness of their teams and also boost the productivity. So the way it works is we kind of took the sort of retrospective framework as a base or starting point that we based the tool off of. And it's just a way to kind of capture and get your team to reflect on how the last week, last fortnight, last month have gone on a particular project. Whilst also incorporating their happiness into that. So it allows team members to kind of with an emoji state how happy they've been that particular week in that project. And for us, it's just it's a way of really kind of trying to get people happier. We want to make people happier, and we decided Teams was a good way to start.
Why do you want to make people happier?
Because by being happy, the main focus of everyone in this life should be being happy. And you are 8 hours minimum at your workplace. So that's what we decided to start in the workplace. And by being happier, everything around you is gonna work in a better way. So we decided to measure the happiness of people first, and then try to understand where is the stage of that happiness, and then try to take action in order to improve that happiness. And usually the happiness is linked directly with productivity at work, because if you're happier, you're gonna work better and be more productive, bottom line. So basically that's the tool. It's very simple to use, and it's about reflecting and taking action.
And have you had jobs where you were really unhappy at work?
I wouldn't say necessarily like really unhappy, but certainly had periods where in certain places
less happier. So but that's one of the reasons that we decided to create this tool, because in the last job that we were working on, we had certain periods of being unhappy, and mainly was because the communication was really bad. So there was no way of communicating with our superior, like our direct boss. So we decided to create a tool that will facilitate that and will give more transparency in the companies. Everyone and especially management will be able to see what's going on in its team and take action. Yeah.
What kind of teams should build this? Or I'm not build this. I'm sorry. I was distracted because there was a shadow. You saw the shadow.
Yeah.
For those who are not watching the video, they're sitting in the sun and a shadow is across, which is really fun.
Is it better now?
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay.
What kind of teams what kind of teams would use this tool? I mean, I know you can say every team, but like is it built for global corporations or smaller teams? What kind of teams? Who's your audience for this?
So I guess the first most obvious audience is our remote teams, right? Because they're the teams that probably suffer from, or at least have, don't have the same communication levels that you'd get in the normal sort of everyday working environment within an office, let's say. So that's an obvious one. But yeah, like you said, I mean, for us, the aim is to try and make this for everyone, but we're starting with remote teams and we're starting with tech teams, really, teams who are much more sort of used to the process of agile familiar with the process of agile or the methodology of agile, and specifically on retrospectives and reflecting, as Savannah said.
Indeed, that is a really special part of the Agile community, is their feedback loops and the amount of time that they do retrospectives and reflect on their process. And there's a lot of successful methodologies out there, like the Toyota Kata methodology is one of the, where they implement and reflect and then iterate and take more action. So it sounds good. How does it actually work in practice? What does the loop look like in your product?
Right. So basically, yeah. So you can go in in our product, and within 2 minutes, you can create what we call a retrospective form. And so you choose a date and time frequency that form will go out. And every, let's say, week or so, or 2 weeks, that form goes to every member of the team that you've specified. And that team member or those team members will be able to fill it out. Once all the forms have been received, then all the data is kind of put together. And you can even get your team to vote on the items that have come out of each person's retrospective, reflection form or retrospective form. And then what you can do is then you can go through it with the team. So there's a dashboard which kind of puts it all together and allows the team to kind of go through and reflect and take action. So then you can create actions, and those will again be sent to the team members that you specify.
And how often should people do this? What's the recommended loop time?
Well, we used to do it every week, but I think it should be around every week, every 2 weeks. But it's mainly when your projects have probably main deadlines, or when you have a deadline, you set up a retrospective form.
Yeah. So whatever the team feels is right for them, really. So we've actually set it up so that if you want, you can have daily retrospectives. There are a couple of teams that do at least do the emoji kind of test every day.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we would suggest one every week or fortnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. I'm just thinking, I manage the remote team for Happy Melly, and I was just thinking that I can tell I'm very sensitive. I'm a highly sensitive person, so I can usually feel when there's something going awry on the team, but it would be so nice to have data to back that feeling up. Because sometimes I'm wrong. Probably often I'm wrong. So it would be nice to have science behind it. I really like this idea. I already made myself a note to try your tool on the Happy Melly team. So you'll see me signing up after this interview. I should have thought of it earlier when we spoke before. So one thing that I want to ask about is, you said that you have developers in Belarus and you have lots of people in London. Why the developers in Belarus, and what's happening in London? Why is London a hub?
So the developers I'll start with first. So I used to have another startup, and it's the same team that helped with that startup. And so because we've got a great working relationship, it was a no-brainer to kind of work with them again. London, it's where we used to live. And it's where, and to be honest, I mean, it's the market that we're most sort of used to, it's a market that we've both worked in before, and it was a no-brainer to start there because we've got so many relationships and connections that enabled us to kickstart this project, straight away. So for us, yeah, London is a hub. It's my hometown. And as much as, you know, we're currently basing ourselves here, we'll be there quite often. In fact, like every month or so, we'll be back in London.
Yeah.
It's a short flight, that's for sure. So
Yeah, it's very close at the end.
yeah, the time zones are working out with that. And so what do you guys use to communicate internally with your team? We're going to be fighting the shadows the whole interview, I think. So we'll just see the sunbeams move across and everybody can be jealous that you guys are outside and we're probably all inside. So, but what do you guys communicate with on your team? What do you use?
We use Skype. We use Trello in order to distribute the tasks and to plan the week and to, you know, to assign the tasks. So everyone knows what we're doing, what needs to be done, any blockers that anyone could have. Slack
as well. But yeah, Trello is a must for us because we literally do everything in it, from business planning to like as Irene said, sort of our sprint boards to our, you know, our planning board, everything we do in Trello.
Product planning,
everything.
Yeah, it's a great tool, super easy to use.
Yeah.
So, and really really versatile, I should say. Yeah. I also am a big fan of the tool. So then what is it that what's something that's challenging for your team? What do you guys struggle with?
It could be communication sometimes.
Yeah, to a degree, communication. And I think it's you know, I think it's something that, you know, most remote teams will at some point will encounter as a challenge, but it's just the way that you way that you deal with it, and then just ensuring that you do reflect and you do kind of, you know, have it surface so that you can take action and you can try different things. And that's what we do. You know, we try and we know that it can be a challenge sometimes. We always look at ways that we can improve it.
Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, most co-located people would say the same thing in terms of if you ask what they struggle with on their team, it's always communication.
Yeah.
Even if you're together, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think with us as well, it's like once, you know, when you do choose this kind of lifestyle, I don't know, I think it makes you much, you know, you become a much harder worker because, you know, it's a lifestyle that we've chosen. I think to some degree, not being all together, it allows us to kind of have some period where we can kind of get on with you know, the tasks that we may have individually at hand. But I think it's a great way to kind of live your life and to, you know, to see the world as well, you know. And yeah, it's for us. I don't think I could go back.
Yeah.
I say that now, but yeah.
It may be the right amount of money or whatever. You never know what people will offer you to go back into the office. I have the same thing. True. I have the same thing. I'm like, if the offer is good enough, I guess I'm open. But yeah, I cannot. That's for sure. Why did you guys? Sorry.
Yeah. Right now, we're loving it.
And why did you go remote to begin with?
Well, we decided at the beginning because it was we decided to go to Thailand because it was cost effective, and the quality of life was much better than in London. And because we were in the early stages of the startup, we didn't have much budget. So so it made sense for us to move to Thailand for 3 months to work really hard, to be focused. Even many people think that, oh yeah, you went to Thailand on holiday.
Not at all.
But we were working 10 hours a day, but the weather, the environment made everything easier. You know, we were working very hard, but at the same time we were enjoying it so much. So then after 3 months, we came back with a lot of ideas, a lot of things that we did. And then we just started to move those ideas around, meet people, and then move the project to the next phase.
I mean, sorry. I was just going to add to that point that, you know, having built being close to home and kind of being in your hometown will make things easier. But you know, a city like London is quite expensive, especially if you are building a startup and you're doing it on a budget. And so seeing if you can be creative in the way that you kind of approach it, you know, even if it's just 3 months, 6 months, see if there's another part of the world that you might be able to kind of like have that work-life balance and then kind of keep things cost effective. And that's what we did, and it worked really well for us.
Interesting. So something that I hear from a lot of startups, and I'm very curious to get your perspective since you've done a few startups now at this point, which is in the beginning, it really is helpful to be co-located as a startup because you want to bounce ideas quickly and talk quickly. So, and then after you're established, then it's better to go remote. So I always hear startups are like, a remote startup, that's really hard. But a remote business is a little bit better once it's established. What do you think of that?
See, I think the opposite. So for me, I think if you can, and to be honest, it was something that I wanted us to kind of test out, which is like, can we build a product with a very fine budget? And, you know, can we work really effectively in this way? And we managed to do it. And and I think it really depends on, you know, it's not for everybody. I think it depends on people, depends on many, many factors. And for us, given the way that we work, the way that we work with our developers, it worked perfectly well. It was amazing.
But it's also true that you and I were always in the same location.
Yeah.
So of course
that helped.
That helped because at least 2 of the people in the company were in the same place. Yeah. So that is I agree with what you said, that a lot of things need to be discussed, a lot of decisions need to be made, and it's quicker if you're in the same place.
Yeah, and it's quicker if you've got a small team as well. I think, you know, as your team grows, that's when you can have way more issues. It's kind of like, it isn't a linear thing. I think, you know, you add another person to a team and you're always going to have, you know, X times more issues to kind of deal with. And it's all about personalities and having that balance, really. So I think just the fact at the time when we were building the startup, there were just 3 of us. It was Irene and I and 1 developer at the time. And it worked really, really well because we were quite small.
Yeah, indeed. The smaller the team, the better. I mean, not the better, but the easier. I mean, of course, you're right. It is exponential. I remember building the Happy Melly team, and as soon as we added more members, it was not linear. The effects that happened. It was definitely exponential. Yeah. So, any hiring tips for remote employees? What have you guys learned anything about how to hire? Because I find it so hard to hire. I think hiring anybody. I mean, I watch my husband hire. He's got an in-person business. He allows them to work remote, though. Otherwise, I would have to divorce him, of course. So he does allow them to work remote. But I see how hard it is to hire people. And I'm wondering, what are your tips?
I think it's all about giving them autonomy and setting very, very measurable, specific goals if possible.
Yeah.
So you give them that. You've got to, you know, I think it's about trust, and it's about ensuring that communication's well and that everybody's committed to what they're doing, and ensuring that you have enough time to reflect. I think if you've got that feedback loop, then, you know, no matter what challenge you're faced with, you can ensure that it goes as smoothly as possible. But it's all about reflecting and making sure that at each point you're constantly asking both, you know, the team and yourself, like, how well this is going and what can I do to improve it.
Yeah, I think the mindset, you need to make sure the other person has the same mindset of working remote, because it's quite special. It's not the same that working in an office. You need to be very inner driven person. Like you need to be independent. You need to you need to be you need to have autonomy. And that would be the first thing. And the second thing, I would say, make sure that the time difference is not more than, I would say, 6 hours or so. More than 6 hours, it becomes quite complicated.
Yeah, people always ask about time zones, and I always say there's nothing you can do to squeeze the world closer together. It's just simply is. It's like physics, right? Like yeah, indeed. So what about, let's see. Oh, so you've said a number of things, actually, that virtual is different than working in person. And that's true. A lot of people try to take the same techniques of working in person and then use it to work virtual. Do you guys have any any stories about having tried that, or any examples off the top of your head?
Yeah, I would say, well, you need to be super efficient in terms of communicating what you need to, because otherwise you're going to end up sending like 20 emails to say one thing. So you need to become super, you know, the emails need to have a structure, you really need to think, okay, what am I going to send, what I'm trying to say. It needs to be super clear. And so I think you learn to communicate better because you have that chance which is that email, or because sometimes it's like, okay, this person is not going to read the email till tomorrow, and when this person is going to read the email, I'm going to be sleeping, so I need that person to understand it right now, like as soon as that person opens the email. So the workflow doesn't need to stop till I wake up and then I explain what I meant. So you become more, I think, we become a bit more efficient in terms of emails and communicating what we need from the other people, and squeezing meetings. You know, we're gonna have this meeting and we're gonna be very efficient because in the office at some point it can be just a meeting that's supposed to be 1 hour, it ends up being 2 hours because we're chatting around, and you know, so I think you become more efficient in terms of communication, for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine, because it's so easy to just in person say like, "Hey, Bob, how's that report?" And then, you know, just quickly check in. You're right. Over online, you tend to send 20 emails to explain exactly what you meant. Yeah.
So I think that's the challenging bit as well, just to the communication that we said before. You need to be super efficient, otherwise you will waste a lot of time and back and forth emails and
it's true. My husband's a phone person, and he's always telling me a lot of times people will just not show up to meetings that I've set. I always think like, is it in your calendar or not? Like, is it, you know, you show up or not? But so many people don't show up, and he always says like, do you have their phone number? Just pick up the phone and call them. And I always think like, oh yeah, I have this phone. Like, I only use it as a camera and an internet server, but I could actually use it as a phone some days. It might make a difference. Indeed. So I want to go back to sort of your time in Thailand and you were talking about 10-hour days. And I want to ask you guys about your productivity tips, because, you know, 10-hour days, that's a lengthy day. So how do you stay productive? What are the tricks and tips that you use for yourself?
Planning every week. So we took, again, taking a leaf out of the agile methodology or agile framework, and just make sure that every week we planned exactly what we're going to do. Obviously things change sometimes and it can be difficult to kind of keep that, but we became really, really I don't know, quite regimented, I guess. Like we were really, really focused. We were laser focused, but it helped because we were in a great environment with other like-minded people. And I know 10 hours seemed like a lot, but we were really, you know, we gave ourselves quite a big kind of goal to achieve. And we were really, really determined and focused to do it. But just planning, reflecting. And that really,
and being strict with the time. Yes, so you're working 10 hours, but the 11th hour, I'm not going to be talking about work. And this was a big thing for us as well, because we're living together. So, you know, it can become a 24/7 job. And being super strict, you know, I'm not going to talk switching off, because for me, it's essential to switch off. If I'm working, I'm working. But if I'm not working, I am not working. And that gives me the space to come fresh next day.
It also helps, like the gym. Every morning we'd like go to the gym or meditate. That really helped as well. So we made sure that weekends were weekends. You know, we weren't working on weekends. So we really
we were not working, not weekends. No.
And we were probably the most productive we've been in our lives. Like it was very, very, very good.
Also, when you have a clear determination and goal, the working hours are not going to be like, oh, I need to work, you know, because we were not counting, we need to work 10 hours.
Right.
You know, it ends up
Right. The goal was not work 10 hours a day. The
Yeah,
goal was something
exactly. That
entirely
wasn't the
different.
goal. The goal was like whatever goal we had that week, and then to just make it possible.
Yeah, that takes some serious discipline, I expect, for being able to do that. Especially, I know, in the sprint planning and also in the agile, there's some serious discipline about how much work a team can take on every week. And the marketing people and the sales people always try to push it. In my experience, they was like, "Can't you just put that extra feature in today?"
Yeah.
And you really have to push up against all those things that come in.
Exactly. We also set up goals sometimes that were not achievable, but that's why in our reflection day we were like, no, we're setting up the goals in the wrong way, so we were all the time taking action, refining our planning, and also
all aspects of what we're doing, we've refined a lot. We've gotten ourselves to a point where everything is very smooth at the moment, because we've learned a lot about how we work together, how we work with our team in Belarus, all of those fine points,
Yeah, that's sort of the whole reflection planning process loop. You start to
It's been our base, and also having mastermind meetings. So we used to have conversations with a friend of ours, that he also has a startup. And just being more accountable, because at some point when you're working on your own, you may not be as accountable than if you were working for someone else, that you need to report to someone else. And so this was super helpful to have someone that we consult, because sometimes we were in this we couldn't make a decision
outside of what we're doing. When you're in something, you're in it 10 hours a day, you may not be able to see the bigger picture. So being able to kind of run that past someone else, they'll just the amount of times that Luke, for example, pointed out something that somebody else might think that's obvious, but for us, because we're so knee deep in it, he
totally
really we have the masterminds, I think every 2 weeks,
and every 2 weeks,
and it was essential. So that was brilliant for us.
Great idea
that we had. We were accountable to ourselves, but also to Luke, because he was expecting to see some progress made.
Oh, wow. I love it. It reminds me, I think it was 2 weekends ago, I went to Wiesbaden to meet up with some of the facilitators that do my workshop around the world. And we had an in-person meeting, long story why, but we were there, and I had been struggling with a problem for 3 months, really the last 3 months. I'd been thinking about it. Within 10 minutes, they had solved it in the meeting. I just thought, wow, what was I waiting for? I will never wait that long on a problem again. I'll totally reach out from now on. Yeah. Totally amazing. So we're nearing the end of our time, but man, I have a lot of questions. I'm gonna stick to the last two questions. One is, what advice would you give for people who are just starting out, on a remote startup, or on a startup, or with the remote aspect of it? What have you guys learned along the way that you would pass on to your younger selves?
So mastermind, for sure.
Masterminds.
And that's a really good one, I think. Yeah, just because especially if you're on your own, or you're kind of not, you're away from people generally in the day-to-day, I think having some form of mastermind group, just to kind of, give you that accountability, and to kind of allow you to kind of touch base with other people, other like-minded people, that's a definite. What else?
Lean. Being super cost effective, especially in this case if you're a startup, because if you're coming up with a new idea, you don't want to spend a lot of money before you prove that idea has a market. So that was definitely our mindset when we were building Mindful Team. Just being super cost effective, build an MVP, and then test it, and then see if there is a market there, because then you always have
quickly
time
as possible. Don't let it drag out, because so many people can spend so much time on that build that they don't actually ever get to validate their idea. So just validate it as early and as quickly as possible. And then just make sure that you reflect, and you find the right tools that complement you and your team, and make sure that you work, you know, it isn't just about the end product that you're building, it's also about the team, the dynamics and the way that you work together. So really working on how you can build the right process for you, because every team is different. There isn't a one size fits all. Every team is different, and make sure that you find the right tool, the right processes, the right way of working for your specific team.
Yeah, I think if you get to work in the most productive way with your team, you can solve any problems. Because at the beginning, of course, when Emma and I started, we had a lot of, you know, ideas that were not working. We didn't know what to do. At some point we got stuck, but because we reflected, we are problem solving type of person. So we, you know, we can solve, at some point you can solve anything, because you're gonna have, of course, obstacles and challenges, but if you find that way that team works well, you may have challenges, but you will overcome them.
And sometimes, or a lot of the time, the challenge or the obstacle might even be yourself. And so you need to be able to admit to that and think, okay, what can I do to change that aspect of the way that I'm working? You know, I think so many people love to blame other people, but it's good to like look within and see what can you do to change that, you know, particular situation.
Sure is easier to blame somebody else.
The easiest one.
How could it be me? I was really relating to that, thinking like, oh yeah, I totally relate to that. Funny. So the last question, which is an easy one, is what is the best way for people to try Mindful Team and to get in touch with you guys? What is the best way to do that?
Yeah, just if you go to mindful.team, we've actually closed the platform off recently. We've made it invite only, but if you leave your details there, we'll get in contact to request access. We'll get in contact with you to allow you to sign up and try it out. Yeah.
Okay, and why? Now I have to ask why. Why did you close the product off? Too many signups?
Yeah, no, well,
awesome.
That sounds, yeah, I mean, it's a compliment people are signing up, but we wanted to kind of, it's still early days for us, and we want to make sure that we get it right, and we're able to kind of, be able to manage and communicate with all the people who are using the platform. So we, you know, in a few months we'll open it up again, but right now we thought it was best to just close it off and just refine and communicate with those people and get it to a point where it's awesome. I mean, it is awesome, but yeah, get it to a point, right, and we can get that feedback and just manage everyone, because we're a small team, and if loads of people sign up, it's going to be very difficult for us to manage that feedback and communicate with everybody.
Love it. Again, part of the lean mindset of building product. Yeah. I think there's a lot to be learned here. I hope that you get a lot of people contacting you when they hear this interview. So people, tell them that you heard it on Collaboration Superpowers. That would be fun. Then at least we know where it came from. Well, thank you guys so much. It was really a pleasure to talk with you again. And I'm wait, how do I say, not surreptitiously? That's not the right word. I'm enjoying the sunshine at the same time by watching you guys. We don't have that here in the Netherlands today, but I'm enjoying the sunshine that you guys have today. I can't remember what the word is. I'm forgetting my English now that I've lived in the Netherlands so long. It's like I'm not speaking Dutch well enough to really speak, but then I'm forgetting my English at the same time.
That happens to me. I don't speak Spanish, no English.
Yeah, my husband keeps saying, you're going to turn out into a mute at the end of this. Kind of grunting along. It could happen. Anyway, thank you again for joining me today. And until next time, everybody, be powerful.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Thank you.